Before I dive into this jaw-dropping story, let me ask you something. If you love your mom, hit that subscribe button right now. And if you love your dad, give this video a like. Also, drop a comment below with your country and city, so we know just how far our stories are reaching across the world. Alright, buckle up, because this one is going to shake you to the core. It was a night dripping with luxury. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above, velvet curtains framed the walls, and the finest wine flowed like water. This wasn't just any evening. It was a gathering of the elite, a celebration of wealth, power, and status. Millionaires and billionaires brushed shoulders, their laughter echoing across the grand ballroom. They were the untouchables. The world bent around them. At the very center of this glittering chaos stood Leonard Harrington, a millionaire businessman with a reputation for arrogance so thick, people could feel it when he walked into a room. Leonard thrived on humiliation, especially of those he considered beneath him. And tonight, he had a plan so cruel that even some of his so-called friends shifted uncomfortably when they heard it. With a smirk pulling at his lips, Leonard raised his glass. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, "I've invited someone very special tonight." The crowd turned toward him, curiosity stirring in their jeweled eyes. "You see, it's not a party unless we've got some entertainment. And I thought, why not bring in someone from the other end of life spectrum?" A cruel laugh rolled from his throat. "I invited the cleaning lady." Gasps fluttered through the room. Guests whispered, their diamond necklaces catching the light. Some chuckled nervously, not sure if Leonard was serious. But he was. He went on, voice dripping with mockery. "She spends her days scrubbing floors, emptying trash bins, wiping up after people like us. Tonight, I thought we'd let her see what real luxury looks like. Who knows? Maybe she'll even teach us a thing or two about mopping." The room erupted in laughter, ugly, sharp, cruel. But a few faces in the crowd stiffened, their smiles faltering. It felt wrong. Very wrong. Minutes later, the grand doors at the far end of the ballroom opened. And in walked her. The black cleaning lady Leonard had mocked so mercilessly, yet she didn't look anything like what the guests expected. She wasn't wearing her work uniform. She wasn't carrying a mop or broom. Instead, she walked with the poise of a queen. A shimmering gown draped across her frame, every step deliberate, every glance piercing. Her natural beauty radiated under the chandeliers. She didn't look out of place. She looked like she belonged, more than anyone else in that room. And suddenly, the laughter died. Leonard's smirk faltered. Because in that moment, it wasn't the millionaire mocking the maid. It was the maid commanding the millionaire's world. For a moment, silence filled the ballroom. It was as if time itself had frozen. The guests stared, wide-eyed, unable to reconcile the woman before them with the image they had been fed by Leonard's mocking words. Her name was Clara Johnson. To them, she was just the cleaning lady. But to those who truly knew her, she was strength, dignity, and grace personified. And tonight, she was about to show the world a side of herself no one expected. Clara walked slowly into the room, every step echoing like thunder against marble floors. Her gown shimmered a deep emerald, hugging her silhouette like it was crafted by the gods themselves. She didn't glance at Leonard. Not yet. She didn't need to. Her presence alone was enough to challenge him. Guests began whispering, their voices laced with awe. "Is that really her? She looks magnificent. She doesn't look like a maid at all." And there, in the corner, someone muttered under their breath, "She looks more like a diva." The words spread through the crowd like wildfire. Diva. Leonard, however, was boiling inside. His joke was backfiring, and he could feel the attention shifting away from him. He had planned for humiliation, but instead, Clara was drawing admiration. That couldn't stand. Not in his world. With a fake smile plastered on his face, Leonard raised his voice. Well, Clara, you've certainly dressed up. I suppose anyone can look decent if they borrow the right clothes." Some guests chuckled weakly, but many glared at him, disapproving. Leonard ignored them. He gestured toward the table lined with crystal glasses and silver platters. "Tell me, Clara, do you know which fork to use with the salad? Or will you need one of us to show you?" A ripple of cruel laughter followed, but softer this time. It was clear. The crowd wasn't laughing with Leonard anymore. They were uncomfortable. Clara finally turned to face him. Her eyes locked on his, calm yet burning with quiet fire. And when she spoke, her voice was velvet laced with steel. "Leonard," she said softly, but the room fell silent to hear her. "Do you really think wealth can buy class?" Gasps shot across the ballroom. Some guests covered their mouths. Leonard's face flushed red with rage. Before he could respond, Clara stepped closer, her gown flowing like liquid light behind her. She looked at the guests, not at him, her voice carrying like a song. I was invited here as a joke. But what I see tonight is the real joke. Because money may buy chandeliers, fine wine, and silk gowns, but it cannot buy integrity. It cannot buy respect. The room erupted in murmurs. Some clapped softly, others exchanged stunned glances. Leonard clenched his fists, but he couldn't stop what was happening. Clara wasn't just standing her ground. She was turning the tables. And then, something happened that no one expected. From the far side of the ballroom, an elderly woman in a diamond necklace rose to her feet. Her voice trembled but carried strength. "She's right," the woman said. "I came here tonight expecting a celebration. But all I see is cruelty disguised as entertainment." Another voice joined in. Then another. Soon, a chorus of agreement rippled across the room. Clara had cracked the golden facade, and the elite were beginning to crumble. Leonard was losing control. But Clara? She was just getting started. Leonard's smug grin was slipping. For the first time that night, his laughter felt hollow, brittle, like glass ready to shatter. Clara, however, stood taller, glowing under the chandelier light, as if she were born to stand on that stage of marble and crystal. Her calm voice sliced through the tension. "You see, Leonard," she said, "for years, I cleaned the corners of this world no one cared to look at. I picked up after men like you who believed they were untouchable. But I never felt shame in that. Work is not shame. Arrogance is." The ballroom went silent again, her words hitting like thunderclaps. Leonard tried to scoff, but the weight of the crowd pressing in on him made his throat dry. He forced a laugh. Big words, from someone who scrubs floors. "Tell me, Clara, did you borrow that speech the same way you borrowed that gown?" A cruel jab. But this time Clara smiled. Slowly. Deliberately. "No, Leonard," she said, her voice rising, carrying. "This gown? I didn't borrow it. It was a gift, from the very fashion house you brag about wearing. They asked me to be their muse last year, but I turned it down because I value humility more than fame." The guests froze. Some gasped out loud. Leonard blinked, stumbling. You're lying." Clara's smile deepened. She reached into her clutch and pulled out a sleek envelope. Inside was a personal note, signed by the head of one of Europe's most elite fashion brands, thanking her for inspiring a collection. Gasps turned to applause. Phones were already being raised to capture the moment. A diva? She wasn't pretending. She had always been one. Leonard staggered, his face pale. The foundation of his mockery was crumbling beneath his polished shoes. But Clara wasn't finished. She stepped forward, her voice now calm but thunderous in its weight. "And for the record, Leonard," she said, locking eyes with him, "I may be a cleaning lady to you, but I'm also a woman who put her 2 children through university, without a penny from anyone here. I raised them with dignity, respect, and love. Can you say the same about what you've built with all your millions?" A hush fell. You could hear a pin drop. Then, like a tidal wave, the applause erupted. Guests rose to their feet, clapping, cheering, some with tears in their eyes. The sound drowned the marble hall, rolling like thunder, crashing like waves against the walls. Clara stood in the center, radiant. Unshaken. Untouchable. Leonard. He shrank into the shadows, his empire of pride collapsing in front of everyone. His joke had turned into his own humiliation. And Clara? She wasn't just the maid anymore. She was the woman who taught them all a lesson they would never forget. As the applause thundered around her, Clara stood tall, radiant, unshaken. But just when it seemed the night couldn't possibly climb higher, she raised her hand. The crowd slowly quieted, eager, leaning forward like schoolchildren waiting for the last line of a story. "There's one more thing," Clara said softly, but her voice carried like lightning through the silence. All eyes locked on her, Leonard's included. She reached into her clutch again, not for a letter this time, but for a small, gold-embossed card. She held it high. "This is an invitation," she announced, "to my own gala. Next month. In this very city. Sponsored by the very companies who once overlooked me. Tonight, I came as your cleaning lady. Next month, you will come as my guests." The ballroom gasped in unison. A few people actually covered their mouths. Leonard's jaw dropped. He muttered, That's impossible. You? Host a gala." But Clara didn't flinch. She locked eyes with him, her tone smooth and razor-sharp. "Impossible?" she said. "Leonard, the only thing that's impossible is building respect with arrogance. Money can buy a suit. It can buy a ballroom. But it cannot buy class. Tonight, you learned that." And then she did what no one expected. She stepped down from the center stage, walked right past Leonard, and without even glancing back, handed her golden invitation to the oldest waiter in the room. "Give this to the staff," she said warmly. "Every cook, every cleaner, every hand that made this night possible. Next month, they will dine with me." The room went silent again, but this silence was different. It was heavy, reverent. Then it broke, an explosion of cheers louder than before. The staff, stunned and wide-eyed, clutched that invitation like it was the crown jewel itself. Guests rose to their feet again, this time not just clapping, but chanting her name. "Clara! Clara! Clara! Leonard!" He sank back into his chair, utterly destroyed. His empire of pride had been burned to ash in a single night. And Clara? She walked out, head high, a queen in her own right. No longer the cleaning lady. No longer invisible. She had turned humiliation into triumph, and left the entire room, and the audience watching this story, speechless. Because sometimes, the greatest revenge isn't anger. It's grace. And that night, Grace wore a gown and carried the name Clara.